Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Man Podcast. My name is Rory Paquette, and I know you know that. Folks, listen, I just like to remind myself about how grateful I am to be sitting here in this chair. When we made the move to 7 days, a lot of people told me I was crazy. I thought I was crazy, and you folks said, you're not crazy, and we're going to keep listening. And now our Sunday episodes are amongst some of our best. So you know what? Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. If you're not out there doing what you're doing, liking, sharing, subscribing, I don't get to sit here and do what I'm doing. And so thank you. If you're a friend of the program, and I know you are, you know what's coming next. We need to pay a couple of bills, so let's get a sip of our preferred beverage here. Man, that is good stuff. And you guys all know what we're drinking. Folks, it's Freedom Hill Coffee. At Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Look them up, check them out. Deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful, just like my wife. They brew a mean cup of joe. It's absolutely fantastic, and they do all the right things for all the right reasons, including supporting veterans, folks. And y'all know how important veterans are here to us at the Power of Man. If you're a veteran out there, I want to thank you and your family from the podcast and from myself personally. We love you guys. Thank you for your service, and I'm glad you found a home here at the Power Man Podcast. Look them up, check them out, folks, at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram, and tell them Power Man sent you. Now, I'm going to have a little more of this so I can keep up with this, dynamo that I'm interviewing today. All right, here we go. Folks, this guy's incredible. All right, I spent like 10 minutes talking to him, and we could have sat there talking for another hour, and I'm like, man, I got to hit record. So here we are. Please welcome to the show. Former Muay Thai champ, independent reporter, political commentator, men's rights advocate, and host of the podcast The Political Orphans, The Conservative Corner, and Unwoken with Nico Lagan. Please welcome Nico Lagan. Nico, how you doing, brother?
What's going on, man? I'm good. Nice intro. Nice, sexy voice, huh? You have
Thanks,
like a
man.
radio voice, bro. Yeah, I like it.
I appreciate it. You got to go with what God gives you. So I'll take it.
Yeah, the problem is when people tell you you don't have a face, you have a face for radio. That's a problem. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you have a voice for radio.
Hey, man, it's all good. Yeah, I understand. You already called me sexy, so we're good
I
to
called
go.
the voice sexy. There's a difference. There's a difference. Don't twist. Already twisting my words. Eh?
That's right, man. It's a gotcha show. No,
You got
listen,
to get
Nico,
the compliments where you can get them, right?
I will take
Got
them,
to
man.
take them.
Especially at
Yep,
my age.
agreed.
Listen, I love what you're doing, man. I had a chance to listen to your stuff, and I mean, you're definitely at home here with a lot of your views. Tell us a little bit about though, who is Nico Logan, man? What are you about? What kind of brings you to where you are today?
God, 100%. I do what I do because God wants me to. At the end of the day, I never planned to create content. I never planned to be recording podcasts. I never planned to be on some of the biggest platforms in North America. I never planned to be traveling the US. I never planned to do any of what I'm doing right now. I was a sales engineer by trade and I was making a lot of good money doing what I was doing. And COVID happened. The government in Canada went tyrannical, especially the province that I'm in. And because I refused to get vaccinated, I lost my career and I was in the field for 20 years. So yeah,
Wow.
they gave me a choice to either get vaccinated or leave. So I left and I sat down and I tried to figure out what my transferable skills were. And I realized that selling $1 million contracts to companies is no different than selling my ideas to an audience. So I just decided to stuff a camera in my face, buy some cheap microphones, and see where I could go with this. And that was about what 5 years ago, I would say. Now I'm about 250,000 followers, and it's not as lucrative as it used to be. Believe me, I make a fraction of the money I used to do, but at the same time, man, I get to share my opinion on like bold opinion, unapologetic opinion with the people out there that don't necessarily have the courage to do it. So hopefully I inspire people out there to just say, you know what, I'm tired of this. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to start talking about it. And even if you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to record the content, you can easily share my stuff because I'll say it for you because I have the balls to do it.
Okay.
So God gave me a tough life so that I could be ready to take the hate because a lot of people don't realize that when you reach millions and millions and millions of people, every month with your content, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. A lot of the comments are absolutely hurtful for the average person. I've had death threat. Like, there's a good reason you won't see my wife and my kids online. You'll never see them. I will never expose them to that. That's my cross to bear, as they say. But people don't realize the amount of hate that you can get, because it's easy to insult people behind a little glass screen, right?
Hmm.
I'm 6'1", 6'2", ex Muay Thai champ, about 230 pounds right now. They would call me sir in real life. You know that.
Yep.
Like, they would never have the balls to speak the way they do online. But it still is something you need to deal with, because every time I open my phone, I know if I click on Instagram, if I click on TikTok, if I click on X on YouTube, it doesn't matter. I get ripped into all the time. So you know what they say: if both sides don't hate you, you're not doing it right. So
Exactly. If nobody's shooting at you, you're not over the target, brother. So, I
you're
get it.
not doing anything important yet.
I get it. I have not been as political as you are, but yeah, I started a masculinity podcast during the Biden era, and that was that was enough. So,
Much needed.
yeah,
Much needed.
that was absolutely enough. You no, you live in Canada and you live in the United States,
I spent,
right?
yeah, over the past 3.5 years, we've done, this is the first winter we're going to be in Canada over the past 4 years. So,
Okay.
yeah, like 3 years ago, my wife and I left Canada after I lost my career, refinanced the home, and we got an RV and we just started exploring the US. We did 30 states in about 3 months. 3 months, sorry, in about 3 years. And now the RV's in Alabama, like at the border of Alabama and Tennessee, which is
Nice.
normally where we spend our winters. We go down there. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the US. I'm a big fan of the South. I'm a Christian, right? So I like to be able to be surrounded by other Christians that have Christian values, because in Canada, unfortunately, Christians are what we call lukewarm. They go to church on
Yeah.
Sundays and they think they're Christians, and they're not. They don't. And unfortunately, that's even the same for the US. Like, we've traveled so much that I have not found a lot of pastors, if any. And this is just my personal experience. There's no
Sure.
way I visited every single church in the US, right? But
Right.
on my travels, I think I can think of one single pastor that had the balls to speak the truth, let's say, about transgender ideology, for example,
Yep.
how evil that is, how going after children is absolutely evil. But most of the pastors don't have the courage to speak about that. Yet this is something that impacts every single parent out there. My kid will never go through the indoctrination centers that we called education system,
Yeah.
because I don't want them to be indoctrinated and confused with their gender when they should be concentrating on being a kid and learning critical thinking.
Yeah. 100%.
Yet our pastors don't have the balls to talk about it. And I think that we're in this mess because our pastors are weak. They don't have, who am I supposed to look up to as a leader if our pastors don't have the balls to speak about the real issues, because it might bother the people in their congregation. Your role is not to be loved as a Christian. That is the oath that you take from the get-go. You want to be more like Christ? Awesome. People are going to hate you. Accept that right off the bat, because that's the reality. The person I follow got murdered and crucified for his beliefs.
Right.
So you can't expect a pastor to be any different. But unfortunately, Christianity has become extremely weak in North America. Like, even in the US, I don't like to say it, but most of the US don't have very strong pastors anymore.
No, you're speaking the truth, and there's no point, especially on our podcast, much like yours, we don't candy coat stuff here, and you're absolutely speaking the truth. I have another podcast called Wake Up the Lions, where we started
Mhm.
it to get Christians to start speaking up, and it's been received great. It's growing like crazy, and the only blowback I'm getting, I mean, aside from, the left, of course, is from pastors who think that
Yep.
I shouldn't be encouraging an independent relationship between the individual and Jesus Christ, that it should go through a church. And I'm like, wow, gatekeep much?
And
You know?
and that's the problem, right? You're calling them out and they're reacting to it. So they're pretty much showing you that they are the problem, that they know that they're the problem, but they don't want to take the heat. They don't want you to point it out. But
Yeah.
imagine you're a well-spoken individual. I'm an ex-drug dealer, alcoholic, high school dropout, covered in tattoos that swears all the time. And I will look at a pastor in his face and say, "You're fucking wrong. You're absolutely wrong. And people like you are the problem." What the hell are they going to do? They're not going to fight me. So why would I be
No.
worried about what they, but what would I, why would I worry about what they have to say? And it's unfortunate because think about Jesus Christ. If he were to come back today, who would he hang out with? People like me. I think it's, I think it's Tim Keller that said the church is a hospital for sinners, not a museum of saints. And when you look
Yeah.
at the Christians out there, they're broken. That's the first thing you admit is I'm I'm a sinner, I'm broken, and I can't do it alone. So I'm gonna follow a man slash God that was perfect, and I'm gonna try to be more like him. At the end of the day, this is Christianity for you. Serve others. By serving others, you serve God. By serving God, you become a better person. It's really that simple at the end of the day. It's not complicated to be a Christian. It's hard as hell to be a Christian, but it is not complicated. It's very simple. But
Yeah.
say that to a pastor that doesn't have the balls to say what needs to be said. And you know, one of the biggest problems that I also see with Christians is that there are a lot of them are out of shape. That's another thing that bothers me. That's a big problem that I have with most politicians too.
Yeah.
Somebody that's not healthy, that doesn't take care of themselves, that can't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. I'm not going to follow you into a war. Like, what the hell are you going to do? I'm going to be the person that's going to be dying because you can't protect yourself.
Right.
So there's so much problems. Like it bothers me that you also have pastors that are lukewarm, but that are treating their body like a garbage, and then they're trying to tell us that, oh, you need to be more spiritual, yet they always fail to say that the body, the mind, and the spirit are interconnected. If you treat your body like a garbage, your mind isn't working right. If your mind isn't working right, how can you honestly connect with God? You can't.
Right.
Those there's a triangle of things that you need to keep in mind at all times, and people just don't resonate. It doesn't resonate with people anymore because it demands accountability. And what demands more accountability than being a Christian?
Excellent
Sorry, that
points.
was a rant, bro.
Not at
Sorry.
all. You're welcome to have
My
rants on
rabbit
this
holes
show.
have rabbit holes, right? We
Right on.
established that before we started
Exactly.
recording.
I love that you brought that up too, because that is something that is just common. It used to be I had to kind of look for the pastor that was out of shape, that really didn't care about
Yep.
himself physically. And I've had pastors say, well, it doesn't matter what I look like physically, it matters what I look like spiritually. And the last time I heard that, I looked at him and I said, isn't gluttony like one of those big, huge, deadly sins? And he didn't have anything to say to me. I think he got mad.
Zing. Yeah, but of course you're
Oh,
calling him out, and
oh.
but
You're
you're
getting your fourth
absolutely
plate
right.
of crab legs at the buffet table, man. That's not temperance. Come
But
on.
that exactly. How is that temperance? How is that self control?
Right.
If you're not able to prevent yourself from eating the next Twinkie, you're an addict.
Yeah.
You're literally an addict. You're a drug addict. It's just your drug of preference isn't alcohol or cocaine. It's sugar.
Yeah.
But what's the difference? What is the difference? Nobody can ever convince me that you can have a healthy mind in an unhealthy body. Impossible.
Yeah.
The two are connected.
Totally agree. Absolutely. 100% agree. Um, yeah. Amazing. Didn't know we were going to go down this road, but you know what? When you and I were talking, I just said, you know what? Wherever we go, we're going to go because I love
Surprise,
this guy.
surprise.
This is
Surprise,
going to be great.
surprise.
Exactly right. The you mentioned your past and having overcome a lot of these obstacles and stuff. That's not something that everybody necessarily knows about you, is it?
No, I don't talk about it anymore. I used to a lot. Well, hold on. It depends on which platform. On the day to day, I don't normally talk about it, not because I'm ashamed of it or anything. It's just that this is not. I talk about current news. I want to get people's attention by using what's trending right now and always bringing it back to my core values, which is what makes a man, right?
Right.
Just there's ways to do it, but I only normally talk about it in these type of formats where people ask me questions directly, because normally I'm the one asking questions.
Right. Yeah.
So when I'm in the guest seat, I talk about it, but I just recorded the video hasn't been released. I think it's going to be released next week, but I was flown to San Francisco to go debate a lesbian mother. So as a Christian man that just my wife just gave birth 2 months ago, I went there as a father, a masculine man, a man's right advocate, to debate why lesbians and homosexuals shouldn't be able to adopt, or they shouldn't be able to have kids of their own, because statistics shows that a father and a mother are required to give the best opportunity for the children.
Hmm.
So that's the thing, right? In those formats, I will go into detail as to why those are my beliefs, not only from a statistic standpoint, but I will also talk about the fact that my dad left, and when my dad left when I was 14, this is where that was the catalyst. This is where all of my life took a turning, because let's be honest here, my mom couldn't handle me. You need a father to handle a boy. If you have a boy that is energetic, that is confrontational, that needs a beating. I needed a beating when I was 14 years old. I had a few, but not enough. Not from a father. You know what I
Yep.
mean, right? I needed to
Absolutely.
be put back in my spot and show that there were consequences to my actions. But my mother was not the one to do that. So what
Right.
happened? Within a year of him leaving, I was doing drugs every day. I was drinking all the time. I was dropping out of high school. That's within a year of him leaving. 2 years after that, I was gone. Didn't live with my mother anymore. Selling drugs, doing drugs, drinking, partying. That's all I did for years until I went back to school in my 20s. But that wouldn't have been the case if my father would have been there. So that's why in those situations I will bring up my past. I will talk about what I've gone through or what I did to myself, because there wasn't a father figure. And at the end of the day, if you're a man, you're a boy, you're a young man, you're always going to be looking for somebody to emulate all the time. It's unconscious. Maybe most people don't live in a conscious way. So unconsciously, they will be looking for that role model to follow. And unfortunately, I didn't follow. I thought masculinity was selling drugs, sleeping with a lot of women, drinking all the time, making money, flashing that cash. I thought that was a man, but I didn't know any better. But what happens when you do believe that that's what it is? That's what you become.
Right. You know, those stories that we don't necessarily like to talk about, those are the things that form us and make us who we are today in one way or another. So, you know, I
Oh, I
appreciate that.
love to speak,
Appreciate
but
that.
I love to speak about those stories, man. It's just that it doesn't. They're not brought up. It's not something I think about on a day to day basis, because this is, Dr. Jordan Peterson said years and years ago that when you've dealt with something, when something happened to you in your past and you've made peace with it, you've learned what you had to learn. You tend to forget those because they don't matter anymore, because you learned the lesson.
Right.
On to the next one. And I'm like that. Like I was wondering why most of those stories I don't really remember or ever talk about. And when I saw that video, I'm like, well, there you go. That's probably it. Because it makes sense that why do I care at the end of the day what happened 20, 30 years ago, if the lesson, if I remember the lesson, I remember not to do that again, because this is what happened to me. So the lesson is what matters even more than the story. But we live in a society of complainers, where they want to score points on the woke totem pole. Like the more problem they have, the higher they score, the more people like them. So yeah.
Yeah. I like that. The woke totem pole. I'm going to borrow that if that's okay.
It's not mine. I don't know where I got it from, but I didn't invent it.
All
So
right. Well, that's great. And I think you're 100% spot on, man.
mm,
Okay. Yeah. Hey, appreciate you sharing that. You have taken all of this and the obstacles you've overcome, and obviously got you through COVID, you know, and got you to
mhm.
where you are today. And now you're a personality, man. I mean, you are a voice that people are listening to. You're out there making a difference. You do this for, and I'm a little fascinated by this part. You do this for Canada and the United States. I've heard, your podcast, so I know you talk about both. Is that difficult given all of the differences? There are more differences than I ever imagined till I listened to your podcast, to be honest.
I don't think there's that much differences between culturally between the US and Canada. Originally, there's not that much difference.
Okay.
Now that Trump's in power, a lot of Canadians define being Canadian by not being American, which is completely insane when you think about it, because we're North Americans. Like most of those people have never left their hometown, they've never left their country, or they've never explored the US. But I can tell you, as somebody that's explored the US more than 99.9% of Americans, we are a lot more alike than we are different. And the work I do every day is not to expose the 20 or 10% of differences, it's really to focus on common sense, common ground. Like, what do we as people agree? And that's why on the Political Orphans, I record with a liberal every single day. And I'm a conservative, I'm a Christian conservative recording with an atheist liberal. And that's what we approach all the subjects that are trending, and we try to find common grounds between the two of us. We don't talk about stuff like abortion unless it's trending, unless it's something important, because we know where I stand on this. I know where he stands. But imagine that we were able to focus on the 80 to 90% of things we agree on as people, regardless of your political affiliations. I don't care that you're a libertarian, that you're a liberal, that you're a conservative or a Republican, whatever you want to call it. I really don't care the spectrum on which you identify. But imagine that we do like Charlie Kirk did and just go to places, have debates, have open conversation, have civil discourse between individuals that don't agree, but do it in a way that is polite. Show your work, be ready to be challenged, be ready to be called out, but we do it in a way that will drive the conversation between individuals where the watcher, the listener, can actually get information from both sides of the story, take that information and go do their own research afterwards and see where they fall within that arena of information, because this is the biggest problem that we have. And even in the US is no different. You guys have Fox News, you have MSNBC sitting at two complete opposite of the spectrum, but they
Oh
don't
yeah.
talk to each other. They don't do cross shows where they sit down and the main host of Fox and the main host of MSNBC sit down and have an open conversation, because they can't. That is not polarizing enough to not create the divide between the right and the left. You always need to have that divide. You always need an enemy to point your finger at. But you look at what happened to Charlie Kirk, as bad as this is, I'm kind of, we're blessed. This is messed up because I've put a lot of thought into this, but it's messed up that Charlie Kirk will have more of an impact in his death that he could have ever had while being alive, because
Yeah.
they assassinated a guy that all he did is believe in free speech, believe in gun rights, and civil discourse. You know that if you could talk to Charlie Kirk today, what Pam Bundy said to go after hate speech because people are hating on Charlie Kirk, he would have completely shut it down. He shut it down so many times during his interviews today. You could try to say, oh, well, he got assassinated with a gun, so we could probably use Charlie Kirk's example as a way to go after the Second Amendment. Charlie Kirk believed in gun rights. He knew that there were certain costs to freedom, and his life is one of them, unfortunately. But what I find the most interesting is when we covered this live last week when it happened, and I thought it would further divide the right and the left. I thought this was just be creating an even bigger gap between the two. But what I've come to see is it has broken down the woke left and the left. It seems like the break is not happening between the right and the left. It's happening within the left.
Mm.
Celebrating the assassination of someone you don't like is kind of the last straw for what I like to call common sense liberal. So they're looking at this and they're like, hey, whoa, 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 hold on here. You're saying that assassinating someone is okay because you don't like them? That's kind of like the final straw. Like my co-host separated from the woke left when they tried to sell him the idea that women could have a dick. And they're like, he's like, yeah, no, no, that does not happen.
Right.
So I got a feeling that Charlie Kirk, his assassination, is going to be that same haha moment for a lot of liberals that my co-host had when they tried to push the trans agenda on people, saying that men can be women, everything is fluid, and forget biology. That's racist. You can't use biology because you're just a xenophobe, you're a racist, whatever.
Right.
But now, because even my co-host, he's heard of Charlie Kirk before his assassination, but he never researched him. I've been following Charlie Kirk for years, and not because he ever taught me something, just because I respected his content. Wasn't for me. It wasn't for 43-year-old men. It was for 16 to 24, 16 to 25
Hmm.
that wanted to know, is it okay for me to be a conservative in a world that's been overtaken by the woke mind virus?
Right.
This is what Charlie Kirk, if you break it down, and it was brilliant because he used his Christian values, not as a pastor, not as a preacher, not to preach the gospel, but to show the reason I stand up here in a crowd that hates me is because I'm a Christian. So he's kind of doing like he's inspiring to me because I want to be a bridge. I don't want to preach the gospel. I'm not a pastor, nor do I ever want to be one. But when people ask me, why do you do what you do? God, because I follow Jesus Christ. That's what I'm supposed to do. If you want to know more about the Christian values, there you go. You want to know more? No problem. Here's a pastor. I just want to be I want people to question why I do what I do in the same way as people now on the left are starting to see those videos coming out from Charlie Kirk where they're calling him a racist. There's a great video of him. He's talking to a black woman with a young child, like probably a toddler, 2, 3 years old, and he cannot. He's not even listening to the woman. He's like, that right there, praise God. That's a gift of God that you're holding, because the kid won't stop playing with the microphone. He's not even bothered. He's like, he's a father. He's just like, oh, that's a beautiful child you have there. So how racist of him to dare
Right.
compliment a black kid, right? But now the liberals, like my co-hosts, are starting to see those videos, and they're like, okay, hold on, that's who they killed. That's the guy they assassinated. That they've been telling me that he's a racist, he's a this, he's a that. Yet he sounds like a super nice guy. So it
Yeah.
seems like what happened with Charlie Kirk is dividing the left, which I absolutely love. Did not expect that, but I absolutely love it.
Yeah. I hope you're right. And I hope that there is a segment of the left, that is not the, radical, progressive, type thing that can actually come back to the middle and re-enter civil discourse. But I think, the problem, especially here in the United States, I don't know how it is in Canada, but the divide is so big that the people who are on the, sort of the middle to left, the folks who are not the real hard progressives, they like to say things like, well, I don't really believe that, boys should be in girls' sports. And I'm still a Christian, but I'm also pro-choice. And it's like, okay, look, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't be all the best parts and then not be the bad parts. And when you go into that voting booth and you pull that lever, the people you're voting for are voting for all these things and enacting all these things that you're saying you're not in favor of.
Mhm.
So there's a real identity crisis with that middle left area that you're discussing. Do you think the Charlie Kirk thing is strong enough to get them to kind of go, hey, I need to break from this side? As long as that's what's really happening? Or is this going to just go away and they're going to go back to voting for people because they can't stand Trump?
That's a good question, but that's a very good question. It depends how Trump handles it. It depends on how the right handles it, because up to now, it's been a week now since he's been assassinated. There's been no violence. There's been nothing that the right has done that could give ammunition to the right outside of what Pam Bundy said, where we need to go after hate speech. But yet people like me, conservatives, are calling her out, like left, right, and center. People are like, yeah, no,
Yeah,
wrong, wrong. Like Trump would like to say, wrong.
right.
But
Exactly.
there's no backlash right now. Like there's a backlash towards Pam Bundy, but there's no backlash as in violence towards the left that is even encouraging people to do that. And that is why I think the divide is going to be created between the left and the woke left or the radical left because the right is just holding hands praying.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's messed up when you think about it, but this is what being a Christian is. You should be able, there's a difference between justice and vengeance.
sure.
And that's what you need to keep in mind. If you put your hands on me or my family, you surrendered your life. That is a not, I don't care where it needs to go. I'll explain myself to God later on. But there's a difference between justice and vengeance. We cannot go after the left the way they've gone after us for the past decades, almost since Obama, because Obama started this whole
Yeah,
woke crap in the US. It's all because of him. And we can't be the way that they are because that would make us as bad as they are, which you're seeing right now that it isn't. So when I say common sense leftists, is the people that can still look and say, Eesh, I'm not okay with the people that are more left than me, with the woke radical left. I'm not necessarily okay with everything the conservatives are talking about because I don't believe in God, but I know that I don't agree with them anymore. So that's a massive question mark. And it's up to us to bridge that divide, to extend the bridge, if you will, to say, you know what? We have cookies. We have cookies and milk on our side. So you might want to join us. I say that to my co hosts all the time. We got cookies. But so it really, it's on us to kind of continue that civil discourse. It's on us to not try to censor them, to not resort to the same type of tactics that they've used for years against us. We need to be the bigger men and just say, you know what? Just like a child. To me, I see the left and the right as the parents are on the right side, the left are the kids, and how do you handle a kid that's misbehaving? This is what I'm seeing. And this is what we need to show to the left, that we are the common sense individuals. And more importantly, why are we so common sense? I will be very curious to see in the next few months how many people have started looking at Christianity because of how Charlie Kirk was. They didn't know what he stood for. Now that they understand what he stands for, or he stood for, how many people are going to start looking at Christianity and like, oh man, maybe there's something here?
yeah,
Because a lot of people haven't been following Charlie Kirk for 4 or 5 years like I have. I can't remember that guy showing up to schools and there were hundreds of people screaming at him, calling him names. Now it's completely different. You look at his last videos, it's like most of the people are in agreement with him. That was
yeah,
not the case. This is new. This
yeah,
wasn't the case 10 years ago when he started doing this, but people don't follow the path. They don't follow the history. They just want to see the end result, like there wasn't 10, 20 years of struggle prior to that to get to that point. But
yeah,
what Charlie Kirk did is amazing. There was nobody before him that was going to those campuses in enemy territory to debate people that were woke, that were being brainwashed and indoctrinated by woke teachers. Yet he did it. There's no, and what's a shame is that there's nobody else right now that can replace him. The
yeah.
way
No,
he
I
did it
agree.
was so brilliant. Like Ben Shapiro saying he's gonna do it. I'm like, bro, just stay home. You're not that type of guy. You don't have the skills that a guy like Charlie Kirk has. There's nobody. Name me one person in the US that has the type of skills that Charlie Kirk had, that was rooted, because his skills came from Christianity, from his beliefs. This is why he did what he did, because he was a Christian. Plain and simple. Look at all the interviews that he talks about his faith. He is a Christian before he was anything else. Then he was a father slash husband.
Right. Yeah, 100%. This I love this conversation, and I appreciate you having it openly. There was a question that was raised in a different forum just yesterday, actually, and I thought it was fascinating, and I'd love to get your opinion on it. The idea, some of it came from some of what Charlie Kirk has said, over the last year, especially. Can you be a Christian if you go into the booth and vote liberal?
I would argue, can you be a Christian and go in the booth and vote for the Republicans?
Okay, I'd love to hear that.
Donald Trump's not against abortion. Donald Trump proned vaccination just like Biden did. So if you start looking at what Trump's now, I see Trump as the lesser of two evils. He is
Sure.
not the man you need for the long run. You need more of a middle ground guy like JD Vance. I see JD Vance becoming the face of the Republican Party. But at the same time, Donald Trump's not a Republican. He could have ran, if it wasn't the fact that the left hates him so much, he could have ran for the Democrats. He's not a real Republican, as in, he does not have the real right values. Right, as in the right side values, not as in what's right, but the right side of political values.
Sure.
He's not a proponent of, he doesn't believe in an anti-abortion message. You can't say that he's a Christian. Like, he uses Christianity to his advantage, but he's not a Christian. I would say that he's mostly an Israel supporter before he is a Christian.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that this is bad or this is good or bad. It just is. You need to be able to call your leaders out. If you gave me a choice and I had to vote for Trump or Biden, I would have voted for Trump 1,000 times out of 1,000, or Kamala Harris, because
Hmm.
he's the guy you needed at this exact time, because he's not a politician. He does not care about your opinion. And he's going to say what he thinks is right whenever he thinks it's right. He doesn't care. That's what the US needed. You guys needed a guy like him. But is that really the type of guy you want 5 years down the road? No, because
Right.
his job is going to be done. But Trump is shifting the culture. So when he got reelected in November last year, you started seeing in the UFC guys dancing, imitating Trump after they won. You
Right.
start seeing NFL players doing the same thing after a touchdown. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, yep, that's because Trump is going to be your new president. And now it's okay to be a conservative. It's okay not to be woke anymore. You don't need to kiss the woke ring anymore because Trump is the next guy.
Yeah.
So you needed this to kind of switch what we call the Overton window from the left more to the center or more to the right. But we can't say that he's not a Christian. He doesn't follow Christian doctrine. He doesn't follow Christian beliefs. So is he really a Republican? No. So this is the thing, right? And I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. It just is. We have to be able to look at the reality and say, is voting for Trump really a Christian vote? On, I don't think so. I really don't think so, because you're voting for the lesser of two evil. I didn't vote in the last election in Canada because I'm a Christian. I'm like, no matter where I look, none of them represented my values.
Sure.
So, what I'd like to see is kind of a third option for you guys in the US, because you only have two parties, but to say, I chose to vote, I chose to show up to the booth, but none of the two parties represent my values anymore. And if the amount of votes that go that way, saying a third option, you should have another election, or there should be consequences if those numbers get to a certain point. Because how many people voted for Trump because they voted against Kamala Harris, in the same way as when Trump supposedly lost against Biden, which I don't buy for a second. But how many people voted against Trump for Biden, not because they liked Biden, just because they didn't want it to be Trump? And
Right.
this, unfortunately, is where we are sitting right now. We're never really voting for the best of the two candidates. We're voting for the lesser of two evils.
Right.
That's the problem. And that's why I didn't cast a vote during the past elections, because I don't believe in I don't believe in politicians anymore. I don't like politicians. I don't believe in politicians.
Yeah.
They're not there to serve others. There's no cost really anymore to be a politician, when serving the people should have a cost. It should cost you something personally. It should be hard on the person that is serving others, because it's not about you. It is unselfish. It is serving others. Being a politician should be a non-selfish act. It should be something that you do for others, not to bring more money into your pockets, not to make you something, but to make something out of others. And we don't do that anymore. So as a Christian, can I really vote? I don't think I can. I really do not think I'm able to vote anymore because of the type of candidates that are being presented. And that doesn't matter that it's in the US or it's in Canada. They're all massive flaws in those individuals, because their lives are not based on my Christian values.
Interesting. I appreciate your input on that. I was curious what you were going to say, and yeah, you surprised me, but I love it. I
Do you
do.
understand why a lot of Christians don't like me?
Yeah. Well, I think any group is going to dislike you if you don't tell them exactly what they want to hear in today's world. So, yeah, I would say that's probably fair.
You want to really this is the one that normally takes the cake that my Christian friends absolutely hate when I say this, but at the end of the day, Jesus Christ was an asshole. If he were to come back today, he'd be seen as an asshole because he wasn't here to please your ego. He wasn't here to make you feel better about yourself. He was there to tell you the truth, not a truth, not your truth, the truth. And there's no way in hell that you're going to agree with him. If somebody calls you out plain and simple and he does it out of love, it's even worse. I think it is the worst thing that you can do to someone is to point their flaws because you love them. I love you so much that I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. And here is why you're wrong. And here is how you can repent. Today, people would see him as an asshole. Well, he was so much of an asshole that he got crucified for his views. So, but Christians don't like to hear that because we in the US it's awesome. If you go to the west of your country, Jesus Christ is a hippie smoking drugs under a tree. If you go more to the south, Jesus Christ has an AR-15 in his hands. You know what I mean? Like Jesus Christ is
Yeah.
painted so differently from coast to coast. But at the end of the day, he was as masculine of a man can ever be. And we need to go back to that. We need to be ready to follow his teachings. If you want to be a Christian, it's going to suck. It's going to be hard. You're going to be prosecuted and people are going to hate you. And I know that if Christians hate me, I'm doing a good job because the Christian movement in North America is extremely lukewarm.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to be really speaking about what needs to get said. And it's going to take an asshole like me that is not your typical goody two-shoe Christian. I was not raised Christian. I became a Christian. I got rebaptized 3 years ago when I was in Colorado. And I just said to that from that day on, screw what people think. It doesn't matter to me anymore because I'm called by my God to be carrying just carrying the truth, just to be out there and say what needs to get said, however people feel about it. I can't control your emotions, nor do I want to, but he asks me to be the trumpet of truth, to just raise the alarm, raise what needs to be addressed, and look in the mirror.
Nice. Nice. The as we kind of start bringing this to a close here, the one of the things you do is you have this conversation with a liberal on your show, so that you can promote civil discourse. That's what
Mm-hmm.
Charlie did. It was all about, hey, as soon
100%.
as we stop talking, then violence takes over. And so,
Yep.
I can fully appreciate that. So let me just ask you this very plainly. I can appreciate what you are doing. Do you believe that we can ever really get back to civil discourse as a country?
Your question is kind of not a trap, but in order to answer your question, I have to specify what the bell curve is.
Okay.
So you do have the bell curve that shows you where people sit politically. Like about 70% of people sit somewhere in the middle. If you look at the bell curve, the graph, it will show you that you have the center and it looks like a reverse horse. It looks like a horseshoe.
Sure.
So you have the extreme, the 10, 15% on both sides, the left and the right. And then most of the people sit somewhere in the middle. If we understand that you cannot change the mind of the 10 to 20%, the 10 to 15% that sits on each end, so let's call them 20% for sake of argument.
Okay.
If you understand that you cannot change the mind of those 20% of individuals that are sitting at either extreme of the political views, and you can concentrate on the 80%, yes, because 80% of the population is a bigger majority than the 20% that's left. And this is why when I create content or when I do interviews like this or when I'm brought up to massive shows, I never try to convince the people that I'm debating that they're wrong and I can prove them that they're wrong by showing why I'm right. I'm not talking to them. I'm using them as a vessel to speak to the people that are behind the camera, the people that will be on their phone watching the content later on. I'm not trying to convince the debater. I'm trying to use the debater to show the flaw or the flaws in their ideology and
Hmm.
expose them by not having to point them out, just with simple common sense. Because take that woman that was a lesbian, that lesbian mother. I didn't go at her from a Christian perspective. I went at her from a statistic standpoint, saying mothers do a terrible job at raising children by themselves. Most of the homeless, and we're talking 80 to 90% of the homeless are men that grew up without a father. Most of the people in prison grew up without a father. Most of the people with mental health issue, they didn't have a father present. Most of the high school dropouts are kids that didn't have a father present. And then you start looking at the parents that were single fathers raising their children, they do a better job on every single point. Why? Because we seek help. We will go find a woman to be that woman energy that our kids need. So this is the point, right? I don't attack people with my values that comes from Christianity. I just show them facts and common sense so that they can't disagree with me. They won't agree with me because that would mean that I'm right, but I don't expect them to tell me that I'm right. But the people in the audience that is not part of those 20% of extremists will hear the message and question it. They might not believe it. I don't want them to believe it because I say it. Don't trust me. I don't want people to trust my opinion. But if it can make you put a critical thinking hat on and say, man, maybe there is something to this. Maybe that guy's so full of shit that I'm going to try to prove him wrong. And by trying to proving me wrong, you prove me right. Because my opinions are not based on emotions. They're based on facts and reality. So if we're able to do that and not discredit, but not try to please the two extremes like we're always trying to please, because those are the very loud minority. Like you go to social media, it's often the two extremes that you hear because they're polarizing. People want to be polarized. But if you bring it back to a common sense middle where people on all spectrum of the middle, on the right, on the left, or in the middle can actually have a civil conversation, I think that 80% or so, 70 to 80% of people would be a great place to start. It'd be definitely a great place to start.
Love it. Wonderful answer. Honestly, I actually feel a little bit better about the question now that you answered it that way. So
You're
I
not going
pre-
to hurt my feelings, man. You can call me
uh,
out, ask me whatever you want. I'm used to it. So
love it. Yeah, this is not a gotcha show. No traps here. I ask stuff I'm really curious about, and I really appreciate having a conversation with someone who's so open to discussing them. And isn't worried about, oh, am I saying the right thing? Just makes for a fascinating conversation. So, Nico, yeah,
I often don't say the right thing, but I'll be the first one. No, but I record live, right? There's no retake. There's
right.
no edit. Every content that I do every day is live. So I don't get to cut it out and make me sound like a different person because it is live. But how many times have I made mistakes that I prove myself wrong afterwards? Because I do a lot of research and I will come back to a show and say, guys, on Monday I said this. This is actually inaccurate. I was wrong. This is what the real information is. Who cares if I'm wrong? As long as I admit it, who cares? I've been wrong many times, and guess what? I can guarantee you that there's probably three certainties in life. One, I will make more mistakes. That's a fact. It's not if, it's when. I will do my best to leave this place a better place. And then three, I'm going to meet my maker when I die. That's about the three realities that I live by.
Nice. I mean, that great words to live by, brother. I love it.
I think so. I think
I
so, but I'm
absolutely love it.
biased, right?
Yeah, right. Nico, man, thank you for coming on, for sharing everything that you have, and for doing what you're doing. Because the work that you're doing takes guts, and it takes faith. And I can tell that you have both, and they're serving you well, man. So I want to thank you for coming on here, sharing everything you have. Tell everybody how they can reach you, how they can find out more about you. I see you have at real Nico Lagan on the screen there.
Yep.
Is that the way? Is any other better
Yeah,
way? How
that
do they reach you?
I'm on every single social media platform out there. So at Real Nico Lagan is where you can find me. But if you want to see my YouTube, I only have one for the show, The Poly Orphan. So POLI Orphans as the political orphans on YouTube. That's where you'll see me record every day. But I stream to Rumble, I stream to X, I stream to Instagram, I stream to a bunch of platforms. So whatever the platform is that you're on, at Real Nico Lagan, you'll find me, and at the Polyorphans on YouTube.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Would love to have you come back if you have time, man, and discuss some other
Anytime,
issues. Thank you so
anytime.
much.
I never shut up, so anytime. And if I discuss with people like you, my wife doesn't need to hear it. So it's a win-win solution for my
That's good.
household.
You get to vent, right? I love it.
Yeah, and she doesn't have to hear it.
All right, brother. Listen, I love this. Host of the podcast, The Political Orphans, The Conservative Corner, Unwoken with Nico Lagan. Nico, thanks for coming on, man. You're amazing.
Thanks, thanks for having me on, man. It was a great conversation.
Thank you. Folks, this has been another awesome episode of the Power Man podcast. And the reason we bring you such powerful men with such powerful messages is because we are united in hoping that you can find your power so you can be a better protector, better provider, better leader tomorrow than you are today. So you can become a better father, a better husband, a better man tomorrow than you are today. The reason that we want that for you is because you have value, because you matter, and because you're worth it. And at some point, you just have to believe it. Until next time.